Chapter 10. Flint ended all of a sudden, and I was in the country. It was like one of those days that it's raining on one side of the street and not on the other. Here you have Flint and a sidewalk. You take one baby step, and here you have country and dirt path. On the sidewalk, a sign aside on the sidewalk side, a sign said, "You are now leaving Flint. Hurry back." On the dirt path side, "You are now entering Flint. Enjoy your stay." So I jumped in and out of Flint around 7 times before that got boring, and then I decided I better head for Grand Rapids. It was already very, very dark, and unless things were different in the country, it wasn't going to be getting light anytime soon. 120 miles. Whew. Didn't take too much time before I figured out that 24 hours worth of walking was a lot longer than I thought it would be. I must have been walking for a couple of minutes when everything changed. First off, there were sounds. Flint could be pretty noisy. What with cars honking and horns and trucks and no mufflers and them shifting gears and people yelling out at each other, so you couldn't tell if they were happy or about to bust out fighting. Out here though in the country the sounds were too or loud too, but what I was hearing was the sound of bugs and toady frogs and mice and rats playing a dangerous, scary kind of hide and go seek, where they rustle around and try to keep away from each other or try to find each other. Instead of being tagged or called it, like the way human beings play the game, out here, ones that got caught got ate up. Every step I took towards Grand Rapids, I could hear the sounds of the mouse bones and bug skeletons being busted up on the teeth of bigger things. Every once in a while, a couple of cats would give out a kind of howls and yowls that would make the hair on your neck stand up. If you were a human being and your heart turned into a little cup of shaky yellow custard, if you were a mouse. I walked and walked and walked. Some of the time, a car would come by, and I'd have to duck into the bushes and wait till it passed. So I don't think I was doing any about 5 miles an hour. I felt like I'd been walking all night, but I'd only gone about three little towns. I was getting so tired that I started to forget to duck in the bushes when a car would roar by. Some of the time, they'd see me, step on their brakes for a second, and then speed off. Most of the time, they never noticed me. Another car bounced up top of the hill. The lights blinded me for a second, and then they ducked into the bushes again. I ducked into the bushes again. The guy in the car stopped, the brakes to slow down. I could see them twist his neck around. He stuck his car in reverse and pulled to stop about 30 giant steps away from where I was hiding. His door opened, he stepped out and started walking slow towards my bushes. He brushed his hand over his head and put his black hat, like the kind of police or some army men wear. But all the cops I'd seen were white, so I knew this guy must be a soldier. He stopped, put his finger on his lips, and whistled. The whistle was so loud that it made me duck down and put my hands over my ears. It felt like he'd been blown it right inside my head. All the bugs and toady frogs shut up. They quit chasing and biting each other, 'cause this had to be the loudest whistle they'd ever heard, too. Rocks were crunching as the man in the black hat walked a couple of steps up the road and stopped again. For the second time, he blasted my ears with that whistle. The noise making critters in the patch of the road got quiet. He said, "Say hey!" He waited, then yelled, "Say hey, I know my eyes aren't what they used to be, but I know they aren't so bad that they don't lie about seeing no young brown-skinned boy walking the road just outside of Wasso, Michigan, about 2:30 in the morning." I could tell that if he was talking to me or himself, so I peeked to see if I could get a better look at this man. He came closer to me and then stopped about 10 giant steps away. "And I'm telling you, I've seen some things out of a place before, and a young brown-skinned boy walking along the road just outside of Wasso, Michigan at 2:30 in the morning is definitely not where he ought to be. In fact, what is definite and is neither one of us should be out here at this time of night." So he squatted down and said, "Are you still there?" I raised my head a little higher, got a better look at him and his big car. He left the door open so I could hear the engine in the car grumbling, and it was saying, Wugga, 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 wugga. Son, he said, this is no time to play. I don't know and I don't care why you are out here, but let me tell you, I know you're a long way from home. Are you from Flint? I could tell he was from Flint just by seeing my face for a second in the headlights. I wonder how grown folks got so doggone much just by looking at you. Something was telling me to answer him. I still wanted a better look. He stood up. You know what? I bet if I can't get you to come out with talk, I got something else that might make you show your face. From the quick look I got, you seemed like a little on the puny side. I'll bet anything you're hungry. Just so happens I've got a spare bologna and mustard sandwich with an apple in the car. You interested? Shucks. How did he know I was so hungry? Then he said, might even have some extra red pop. Before my brain could stop, my stomach made my mouth yell out, but I don't like mustard, sir. The man could tell which bushes I was hiding in, but he didn't bum rush them or try to get me. He just laughed and said, well, I didn't check, but I don't suppose the mustard's been glued on. I'll bet you could scrape it off. What do you say? I was carefuler talking to him this time, so he couldn't track where I was. I turned my head and talked sideways out of my mouth, like one of those ventriloquists. Just leave them at the side of the road and I'll get them. And please open the bottle of pop, sir. I don't have a bottle key on me. He squatted back down again. Oh, no, can't do that. The deal is, I feed you, you show me your face. From the way the man talked, he seemed like he was okay. And before my brain could stop, my stomach told me the rest of the slide my suitcase deeper in the weeds and walk out. The man stayed squatted down and said, I knew I saw something. A deal's a deal, so I'm going to go get your food. All right? Yes, sir. He stood up, turned his back to me, and then ducked inside the car. A second later, he came back with a brown paper bag and a bottle of Red Pop. Here it is. He stood there acting like I was going to have to come over to get it. Could you put them down and I'll eat them when you can keep driving, sir? He laughed again. Thanks for your concern, but I've got a little more time to spare. With him standing in the dark, dangling the bottle of Red Pop out of his right hand and the red tail lights of the car behind him shining through the bottle, it looked like the reddest red in the world. I walked right up to the man, like I was hypnotized. I forgot all my manners and reached right out. I raised the bottle over his head. Hold on now. Could I have some of that pop, sir, please? He smiled. That's not why I said hold on. I said because we have something talking to do first. My eyes left the bottle and looked at the man. His hat wasn't a cop hat or a soldier hat. It was the kind of cap men wore who drove fancy cars for rich folks. And it wasn't black, it was red. He said, I've got a problem and I need you to help me figure it out. Uh-oh. What he just said is another one of Bud Caldwell's rules and things for having a funner life and making a better liar out of yourself. This was number 87. Rules and things number 87. When an adult tells you they need your help with a problem, get ready to be tricked. More times, this means they just want you to go fetch something for them. The man said, my problem is I'm not quite as brave as you are. I'm feeling very, very uncomfortable standing on the side of the road just outside Owasso, Michigan at 2:30 in the morning. And the sooner you can put my mind at ease about what you're doing out here, the sooner we can both go about our business, okay? I nodded. He waited a second, and I nodded too, and I nodded back. And he said, well? I was too doggone tired and hungry to think up a good lie. Nothing, sir. He looked disappointed. What's your name, son? Bud, not Buddy, sir. Now, what's your you? That's an unusual name. Did you run away from home, Bud, not Buddy? I could tell this guy was poking fun at me, but not answering anyways. Yes, sir. Okay, that's a start. He handed me the bottle of Red Pop. I must have been sitting in ice in the car. It was cold and sweet and delicious. After a couple of seconds, he pulled the bottle away from my mouth. Hold on, hold on. Don't belt it all down on the first pull. There's plenty here. I slowed way down. Okay, Bud, you've run away from home. Where's that? I don't know. What if it was because the Red Pop is juicing up my brain because I'm such a good liar, but some of the things got me thinking real quick. The first thing I knew was that no matter what I told this man, I wasn't going to let me stay out here by myself. But the nervous way he kept looking around was making me seem so scary that not saying anything, not staying out here was okay. The second thing I knew was that I couldn't tell this man about the home or the Amoses. I wasn't about to let him take me back to either of them. The man said, "Where's home, bud?" And no Delta Red Pop must have pumped through my heart because my brain came up with a perfect lie. "I ran away from Grand Rapids, sir." See how perfect the lie was? Maybe the guy would have felt sorry for me and put me on a bus to Grand Rapids, but I would have to do more doggone walking. He must have had some money. Anyone driving a car like that would have to be rich, or at least know somebody who was rich. The man scratched it under the back of his hat and said, "Grand Rapids?" He said like he was most unbelievable thing he'd ever heard in the world. Like he'd need to put six exclamation points after it. Something about the way he said it made me nervous, but I answered, "Yes, sir." The bad thing about lying, once you say it, you usually got to stick with it. "Well, I'll be," the man said. "That's where I'm from. I left there not an hour and a half ago." He snatched the bottle out of my hand, grabbed my arm, walked me over to the passenger side of the car, and started to open the door. I was glad I was going to be getting a ride, but I said, "Sir, I left my suitcase over in the bushes. Can we please get it?" "See, my eyes aren't real near as bad as I thought they were. I knew you had a box or something." "But not, buddy. You don't know how lucky you are I came through here. Some of these Owasso folks used to have a sign hanging here that said that I'm going to clean up the language for you. It said, 'To our Negro friends who are passing through, kindly don't let the sun set on your rear end in Owasso.'" He must not have trusted me because he kept hold of my arm. I went over to the bushes, I grabbed my suitcase, and then he walked me back to the car. When he opened the passenger side, I could see there was a big box sitting in front seat. The man never let go of my arm. He wrestled the box over to the back seat. If he wouldn't have let go of my arm for just 1 second, I would have run like the devil was chasing me. On the side of the box, some real big letters and clear as anything, urgent contents, human blood. Oh man, here we go again. My heart started jumping around in my stomach. Only kind of people who would carry human blood around in the car were vampires. They must drink it. If they were taking a long trip and couldn't find any people to get blood from, this guy figured out he'd rather have my fresh blood than blood out of a bottle. I barely heard him say, "Get in. I'm going back to Grand Rapids tomorrow. I'll send them a telegram to your folks, and then we'll take you back." Then he made me my first mistake. He let go of my arm. I slid into the car, and he closed the door behind me. Quick as anything, I locked the door and crawled over to the driver's side and pulled that door closed and locked it. Just as the vampire reached for the handle to get in, I dug around my pocket to pull out my knife and put it under my leg. I put my hands on the steering wheel and looked at the gear shift and tried to figure out which way was go. I stretched my legs out as far as I could reach one could get on the gas pedal. I pulled the gear lever down and took off, with the vampire running as hard as he could to catch me. Wow, if I kept up like things like this, I'd be knocking Babyface Nelson off the FBI's 10 most wanted list.